Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Founding Lore Fathers. This is Richard, and I am with John tonight. Dan is taking the week off. How's it going, John?
Fine.
It's going just fine.
There you go.
So
We
we are
got it
going
on
to
recording now.
be we're going to be talking about the bridge collapse of Maryland. So the Key Bridge went down, and there's been some. It's one of my favorite bridges. They got hit by a cargo ship. It's I guess the ship was having some sort of electrical issue,
Right.
but like all good American disasters, there's a ton of fun and shitty conspiracy theories floating around, the internet.
It's
And
crazy how, I seen a meme that summed it up pretty good. It's like, what happened? A boat hit the bridge, and the bridge collapsed, and the mayor talked, and nothing else.
yeah, right. Sometimes bad things just happen and there's nothing there. But I mean, we've been so I don't know. I guess our government is just so shitty that like we're just used to them fucking with us. So things like this happen and you get to talk about it. I know, but I don't know. Before we go further, I do want to acknowledge that like this is a tragedy and it took the lives of several people. And I do want to commend the first responders who were able to at least minimize the human loss. And anyone out there who like, if you want to contribute to any of the families that were impacted, the Baltimore Civic Fund has opened up a donation page. I'll link it in the show notes, but you can find it with just a quick Google search. Just type in BaltimoreCivicFund.org. It should pop up for you.
I was just curious, what was the statistics of the people that were actually on the bridge at the time?
I think I don't know off the top of my head. I know there were at least two workers that were killed. They found them like I don't know 2 days afterwards, stuck in their truck. I think the death total was at like 10, maybe. I'm gonna look that up real quick. Doop doop
You just sent
doo
me a
doop
link, or
doop
like
doo.
when we were talking, a link popped up. It was like, try AI features. And it's like, no, no,
Oh
thank
god,
you.
dude. So
AI has become
while
so prevalent.
what is really bothering me, so I use I'll have Bing's the auto. I hate it, but Bing's the automatic what's called search engine that when I click on whatever fucking Internet Explorer is now. And so six construction workers were killed. So there's that. There was a work crew up there doing some work. But
Okay,
whenever
hold
I'm
on.
doing
No,
like,
no, no. We can't move past this. You use Internet Explorer?
well,
I thought that died years ago.
it's not. Let me see what I don't think it's called. It's the like the new version of Internet Explorer. I don't know what the fuck it is. Hold on, let me
The
see if I
Great
can.
Return.
Microsoft Edge. There you go. That's the new version. I'm not using Internet Explorer. I use this because there are certain. So in my classes, there are certain like internet or like web browser requirements to get into like recording like test or something like that, and it has to go through Microsoft Edge. So I just fucking use it for everything, man. I'm not a big fan. I hate that Bing's the thing.
God, right?
But what drives me crazy about it, so like if I'm searching for something and it's not in the top three things, I'll scroll down. Then I have to scroll back up to the top. And if I scroll too far, fucking AI jumps in and I completely lose what I was looking for. It goes back. It's shitty on every level. And I don't like it. So, if anyone at Microsoft is listening, which I doubt, go fuck yourself.
Man, my thing is like people are already starting to use that like in court. They're like, well, that's not me. This is AI. That's already becoming a thing as an excuse for criminals.
It's kind of like I was hacked.
Right.
Back in the day when you were just, people would post weird shit on their Twitter feeds or something.
I mean, what's it going to be when it
So,
gets to the point where like video is no longer evidence? Because when it gets to that point, then what do we have left? If
yeah,
eyewitnesses aren't acceptable, you know what I mean, and then video is not acceptable, like all we'll have left is DNA, and not everybody's going to be walking around like putting their DNA on everything.
yeah. I mean, right pair of gloves, tissue here and there, you get away with a lot of shit. Now, it'd be interesting to see how experts are used to argue whether or not um, videos were altered by AI.
Right.
Because I mean, there's we're at least we're at least 40 years away from having judges that can understand what AI is. You got Sam behind you there, yeah. So like right now, like yeah, I was looking at what was that case? Kyle Rittenhouse, the one that judge was what 90, and they were trying to explain pixels to him, but he couldn't understand what that meant. So I mean, that judge is young enough to understand.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like I'm sure that when DNA first came around, the judges were like, yeah, I don't trust it. Give me a fingerprint.
I remember a case there that it was when DNA first become a thing, and this guy was like, "Sure, why not? You could take my DNA," and he tried to argue in court because it was such a new science. And they're like, "No, this is like 99.9% probability that you did this."
Oh,
Like,
snap. There's the first guy, right?
right?
It's junk science. They don't know what my blood looks like. That's crazy. Ah, man. Anyways, um, so I do want to talk about who, before we get into any of the fun conspiracies that have popped up around it. I do want to talk about Francis Scott Key, the guy who the bridge is named after.
Right.
So this is the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. That is what he's most well known for. Outside of that, apparently pretty big piece of shit, and so is his family.
How
So
so?
he, well, so he's a well known and connected lawyer out of Frederick, Maryland, and I guess he was a district attorney. He was elected district attorney or appointed, I guess, appointed district attorney for a little while, and he lost several really big cases. Apparently, former vice president and founding father Aaron Burr was a treasonous bastard who tried to start a war with the Spanish, despite all of the evidence saying he did what he did.
What else
He
is
lost
Mr.
the
Burr
case.
famous for there, Richard?
I don't know, John. How about you tell me?
How about the duel with old with our
Alexander
favorite
Hamilton. That
favorite American?
it was Hamilton that
Yeah,
he had a duel with, man. So yeah, I'm not familiar with all the founding fathers, but I know that Burr won that one, and his distant descendant or nephew or whatever is Richard Burr, who's
yeah.
he is one of the like most financially corrupt people in Congress, which is a really hard thing to do. So he knew he was getting out, and he made a ton of money off COVID, and decided, you know what, I'm not running for re-election anymore. So
Absolutely.
he cashed out. Um, but yeah, I didn't realize that Burr. I didn't get too deep into it, but it's called the Burr conspiracy. Apparently, he was pretty awful with that. He lived in exile for a little while. But anyways, he was a pretty proud slave owner, and he was very anti-abolitionist. He was one of the founding members and one of the most active leaders in the American Colonization Society. Now,
Wow.
their primary goal was to undercut abolitionists by sending free slaves back to Africa. So this whole
I
thing
didn't even
was,
know that was a thing.
oh, dude, it was like, how like, did you ever watch Thank You for Smoking?
Yes, I did
Okay,
watch the
so
movie.
there's a scene in there where, and maybe I'm confusing movies, where like the bad guys were all, they were funding the good guys to make a big scene, make an argument out of it, so they could make the good guys look like idiots. That's what, because I mean they had enough money to do it, right? So that's what the American colonization society was doing, right? So they were like, no, we don't like black people, but there are free black people. Send them away. And this is what I mean. It's a abolitionists hated it, free black people hated it, and this is the group that ultimately led to the creation of Liberia,
Right.
which is home to General Butt Naked, one of the scariest people to ever do it. If you're not familiar with him, we will do a whole episode on him because he
That
is
sounds
a
like a good plan. Yeah.
yeah, he's a scary dude, man. Um, oh, what was I doing? Yeah,
Just
do,
like to
do, do,
interject real
do.
quick, Thank You
Yeah, go
for
ahead.
Smoking was a good movie, and it really it showed what lobbyists do here in America, and they may not even believe in the cause, but they will fight on that hill and die on that hill for it.
Dude, that's actually, it's one of my favorite movies. So it's, I don't know,
What is
however
his name?
10 plus years
Eckenberg,
old.
Aaron Eckenberg. Is that his name?
He's Two Face. I don't know what his
Yes,
name is, but he's Two Face.
he's such a great actor. You
Dude,
know,
him when he was on the whatever the fake like daytime show was, like the fake Ricky Lake show, and he was able to, like, there's a kid who's got cancer because he's been smoking, and he convinces the crowd to be on his side, and the kid who's got cancer gives him a high five. It's like,
yeah,
what,
that's
dude?
this.
How did this just happen? Hmm.
I like his buddies. Like one was for firearms, and the other one was for alcohol or something like that. And it was just they were
Yeah,
great.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna rewatch that movie because there's
Same.
another great scene where he gets kidnapped and they give him a nicotine overdose so he can't smoke cigarettes anymore, and he's the cigarette lobbyist.
Yeah,
Half of his job is smoking. Yeah, that's funny. That's a really good movie. I highly recommend anyone watch that. Anyone, even though we spoiled some of it for you, we're not doing it justice. So you
right.
should definitely check that out. Um, but so Keyes, apparent. So in 1933, he secured a grand jury indictment against a anti-slavery publication called "The Genius of Universal Emancipation." Um, so yeah, he went after them. Like, he was really going after these abolitionists. And then in 1836, he
Yeah.
went after Reuben Cardell, and that's he's the brother of Prudence Cardell, she's one of those key figures, key abolitionists, because she was the first like white woman to open a school for black people, like black people in general. So she was way ahead of her time, and that was unsuccessful. Apparently, it almost started a riot called the Snow Riot, where a rumor started that someone attacked an old white lady. Yeah, this guy's a real kind of big douchebag. And then his kids. So his sister married Roger Taney, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court during the Dred Scott case.
Okay.
His son was shot and killed Annie Dufresne style because he was sleeping with a married woman, and his grandson
That'll
was
do it.
locked up for being a Confederate sympathizer. So these guys, I mean, all in all, I mean, they really are some standard Maryland
And
trash.
you said this was
Someone's
the
connected.
1830s, right? This
Yeah, this is
this
1830s.
so like we're gearing towards Civil War at this point. Like you know what I mean? We're right on the cusp of it.
Yeah, dude. So I mean, the Dred Scott case. That's the one where they decided that um, if you're an escaped slave, or if you're a slave and your slave owner takes you to a free state, doesn't matter. Those laws don't count. So that was, I mean, it was one of the final dominoes that
It's just a
tipped.
strange time in
And
America.
dude, it's absolutely insane, man. Like, the idea of owning people, and mostly because it's primarily driven by profit.
Right.
and like just pure racism. It's just nuts.
I
But
feel
yeah,
like okay, so that's around the 1830s, and then think of everything that happened around the 1930s. It's like this is the cursed time in history. Is the 30s.
oh, we're coming up on them too, dude.
I know that's what I
Right
was just
around the
thinking
corner.
about. Because there's a lot you can draw a lot of parallels between the 1920s and the 2020s. If
Dude,
there would be something interesting we could check into one day, but I remember reading up there was a lot of things that line up,
the
and
Spanish flu,
right.
1918, 2018, 2019. Yeah, we had that whole super flu going on there. And then when was the Spanish War? Because that was one that was media driven, which, 1990 or 1898, 2001,
Yeah,
media driven war, Yeah, I can see it happening. Yeah, just the end of the world coming up. We got at least maybe another 10 years.
right.
So we'll find out. So did you see any like really fun ones that were out there for the we'll just move on from the history lesson there. But yeah, so the wrap that up, the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, total piece of shit. Great poet, total piece of shit. So one of the ones I saw floating around about the bridge conspiracy. So there were some we'll just stick to the racist subject. There were a ton of people who were like, "This is DEI. It was a diversity hire, and that's why he ran into the bridge."
I saw that, and it was just like, man, it's a boat. A boat hit the bridge. Like it happens, and it's just like that the canal that boat hits the canal every year and stops the canal up. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Like it's one of my favorite things that happens almost every year.
talking about the giant boat floating through a mini canal. Yeah,
Yes,
dude, there it's yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about because
they've
it goes
gotten better
sideways.
at
Because
cleaning up that mess. Like, used to, like, it took days and weeks and everything, but now they've just gotten pretty good at just getting that thing cleaned right back out.
well, canals themselves are pretty. They've got an interesting history in the United States. Like, I mean, to boat travel, like we dug a bunch of canals through like the upper part of the United States, and then do trains. They'd been trains, and all of a sudden it was just completely useless to have those canals.
Right.
Um, yeah, that was an interesting one. And then there was it was that the ship was from Singapore, and since TikTok CEO is also from Singapore, their reaction to the government, I guess, impending ban on TikTok, and because I mean, of
I'm
all the
sorry, but
places to
Evil
attack,
Knievel couldn't make some of these leaps. You know what I mean?
you know, of all the places to attack, it's Baltimore. I guess it's probably one of America's least cared about cities. So it was just some random bridge that's out there.
Right.
Hmm. But it really was. When I say it was my favorite bridge, it really was one of my favorite bridges, man. We used to there's a creek not too far from there we used to go crabbing at. Um, and then it's also it's on the cover of one of my favorite albums, the Pasadena Sick and Tired, which
Yeah,
that's a great regional band. I think I might have sent you the picture of it. But so yeah, that bridge is just it's just in the backdrop of my life when I was younger.
exactly. Well, I mean, everything that's Virginia and North is part of that historical early America. So, like that I could see how people draw those conclusions all the time because of that simple fact that there's so much history in those states and in those areas.
Well, the other like prevailing conspiracy theory that I heard is that it was set up by the liberals because they hate the Star Spangled Banner. And since the bridge is coming from the namesake of the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, that one's been floating around. That's a dumb internet one.
Man, it was a boat. A boat hit the bridge.
Yeah, right.
The mayor came and
Um,
talked. That's it.
That poor guy. Man, that got so ugly for him so quick too, dude. Like, I don't know. I hate that.
I kind of
I
feel
hate
like
that
the
where we are
world
where we
has
are.
become too connected. I mean,
Dude, yeah,
it's not just with these types of situations, but like you have this sleuth America that do a little bit of internet research and suddenly they're persecuting people online for things that aren't even realistic.
yeah. Well, I mean, Reddit solved the Boston Marathon bombing, and they ruined some dude's life. I
Right.
mean,
That
they
had
had him
nothing to
wrong.
do with it.
Yeah, he's just some dude. Um,
It started back with the Olympics and that man that they accused of being a bomber back then. Remember that? It ruined his
yeah,
life.
Richard Jewell. Yeah, they
Yeah.
really fucked him up, dude.
He
Great.
still
Actually,
has
dude.
troubles to this day.
Uh, they were so. I'd I would argue that the speed at which they wanted to break the story was crucial in that case, and that it has had a lasting impact. However, I would argue that the way we communicate has been impacted. I would date it back to cable TV
Yeah.
because that's where we broke. That's where America's. Because we had three channels, right, for the longest time. We all had kind of the same idea of what was going on from those three channels. We had like unified moments, which I mean, kids today, they're never going to understand like when Malcolm in the Middle premiered. I was in middle school, and that's all we talked about.
Yeah.
When spoiler alert, when Mr. Burns got shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we had to wait 2 weeks to find out what the or however long it was to find out
What
what the
was
fuck
that?
happened.
For me, it was like second or third grade.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's just it's just one of those things, and like even other things, like even early cable when there were only so many channels you could watch, like when the whatever the what's the Jeff Foxworthy Larry the Cable Guy thing, um, Blue
uh,
Collar Comedy Tour.
Blue collar. Yep.
Yeah, I mean even that. I mean people walked around saying "get her done." And that was a thing that happened for like a week and a half, or probably a month or so. You know what I mean?
The
But now,
popularity of the Chappelle Show. That was unreal.
yeah, South Park, groundbreaking stuff like South Park, and then so that stuff would happen, and there was kind of a unifying culture. But now with everything being as segmented and spread out and diluted, thanks to social media, thanks to the rise of YouTube, thanks to the rise of more diverse and targeted, or I should say, targeted ads based on just Google searches. How we distinguish truth has changed entirely.
Yeah.
So there's too much information, too much connectivity. That's a fair thing. It really is. This is one is right. So this guy's conspiracy is that nuclear war will start because the media and some scumbag executive want it to happen so bad that they will do anything to instigate it, including running a ship in there. Um, Black Swan events. There you go. And this one was the bridge was weakened by electrical vehicle traffic, and that it's Pete Buttigieg's fault for destroying our infrastructure. So that's there's some real I don't know. It's an important lesson. I know you've repeated it several times. Like shit happens. Doesn't mean
That's
it's a
it.
conspiracy, and
Yeah.
especially some of the people who are listening to our show. I mean, it's conspiracy driven.
Absolutely. And
So
we spread it around a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Else we wouldn't have something to do or talk about.
no, it's fun, but this
But
is
sometimes these TikTokers just they go overboard.
oh yeah, dude. There's yeah, it's how can we jazz up this train wreck to make it so that my train wreck is bigger than the other train wreck. So that's kind of how, in this case, the bridge collapsed, which apparently, um, a week or two before the bridge collapse in Baltimore, there was a boat ran into a bridge in Arkansas or something like that, and then another one happened just yesterday without collapsing. It's just boats on water run into shit.
Yeah, I
So,
during the hurricane in New Bern, there was a boat that hit a bridge and got stuck underneath of it. It was just part of it. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
no conspiracy. It just happens.
I'll tell you what though, man. Like the fucking captain of that boat, like I would love to know if he was texting and driving, or if like he was taking a shit and his like first mate or whatever
Right.
was in charge. But you gotta feel so stupid. Something like that happens. Like
It's like that cruise liner that remember that time that cruise liner they cut too close to the shore because there's like some kind of little thing that they would do. They would cut in near the shore so everybody that was standing on shore could see them. It was like a thing that the cruise liner did, and then it ended
yeah,
up getting too close and wrecking.
just ran aground. there's there's a couple of them. Like I remember there was one that ran into a reef. Like it was a well-known reef. Like you just don't do that type of thing. But they were there. They were just stuck at sea for a week or however long it took for them to get out there. I mean, thank God they're on a cruise ship, not on like they're not eating each other. you know, there's enough booze
Exactly.
and food. But I do want to touch on a topic. I know we mentioned it pre-show, but I would like to do a full episode on it. There's a some events happening down in Arizona where a group of like millionaire kids started a gang and been randomly attacking people throughout a city. Apparently, and they eventually got to the point where they killed somebody. And so it's I want to say I think it's the Arizona Republic that did the reporting, and shout out to them because without them, this case would have just been it would have continued to have been swept under the rug.
Yeah.
So on or around Halloween, it was a high school party. Some kid got, I mean, he got jumped, and then I don't know, they kicked him while he was on the ground, head trauma, whatever it was, killed him. And the cops closed the case like 3 weeks after that without following any charges. And it wasn't until the newspaper actually like contacted them for a comment on the case that they reopened the case. And like one of the kids' parents owns a gym. He got caught saying like, I guess I didn't know my own strength. His parents tried to fly him out of the state, tried to put him in a cabin so his wounds could heal before the cops talked to him. One of the kids, like his parents are principals, and so like when people were reporting him for beating them up in the like the locker room and shit, they weren't doing anything about it. It's a real clusterfuck of a situation, man. Like I don't know, we call
There's
them Gilbert goons.
that's I know you hear it a lot of times. People are like, you can be 18 and join the military and die for your country, but you can't drink alcohol, and that is a clear cut case right there. Why? Because when you're 18 years old and you have the ability to drink, you're still socially intermittent with younger teenagers and things like that, and it's just like you don't know what you don't know at that age,
Yeah,
and you're stupid. Like I was stupid at 18. I didn't think about consequences of my actions and things like that. And anytime there is multiple people attacking one person, it just makes me feel ill. Like
yeah.
why would you do that? Like even adding a second person is more than one person to fight off. They can't watch
The only time it's acceptable is if you're stopping like a shooter or
exactly.
someone with a knife. You know what I mean? Like there's some random attack going on, fucking team up. But don't just fucking to swarm attack somebody. Especially these rich fucks. Like life's on easy mode. Why are you fucking it up? That part just always kind of drove me crazy. And like I mean even just today, like I mean so fucking go Wolfpack. They beat the Duke Blue Devils in the Elite Eight, and the majority of the state hates Duke because they're rich fucks and they get away with shit. You know, so, hopefully it's a universal thing. I don't know, but yeah, that's something we'll have to touch on. Um,
It
and
reminds
then
me of the
go ahead.
Murdo kid. He
Oh yeah,
he was on the boat, and I mean, he was responsible for that girl's death, and his family was rich and covered it up, and then his dad ended up being a real piece of shit, and he killed his whole family and tried to cover that up. Like,
wasn't
yeah,
even good at it.
apple doesn't fall far from the tree sometimes in those situations.
He ruined my name. Come to find out, he was also stealing money from his firm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those people sucked. So yeah, it's fucking tough shit, man. Ah, anyway, so we should be back full show next week, hopefully, and then we'll be coming in and covering a few more, couple different topics going up on that. Um, anyways, guys, thanks for listening to us. We will see you guys next week.
Yay. Bye.